Welcome, everyone, to the Great Debate. Welcome to the Great NoDQ Debate. We are here Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I cannot believe it, but it's finally happening. We got these two together for a rematch from their debate several months ago, which was very well received, but we just had trouble getting everybody back together for this. We are here, though. Thank you to everybody in the chat room for joining us live. We appreciate your viewership and support. Let me go ahead and introduce everybody to polarizing figures in the no DQ community, but they both have their fan bases. So first of all, let me introduce him. He is a regular columnist on NoDQ.com. He's been around for a very long time, though. This is only his second appearance on video. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Mr. Tito. Tito, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. Thank you very much for having me, both Aaron and Virtue. I'm very excited for this debate, and I'm gladly we're finally all available to do this, and we'll get it done, and we'll put on a great show for this great audience here.
Absolutely, and you got a unique costume. I must say that it is something my dad would probably be very proud of. He loved the creative costumes where people would take various odds and end items and put it together and just make a costume that's totally unique from anything else out there. So well done, Tito. And the other guy we have here tonight doesn't need a costume. He just has the sunglasses. The sunglasses get more heat than just about anything else. So why even bother with more of a costume? He is the debate king, as you can see by his t-shirt, or maybe the self-proclaimed debate king. I guess we'll find out by the end of this video. Virtue, how's it going, man?
No matter what the audience says, I win. So if at the end of the show, if Tito and his fans say he won, that's fine, right? I'm here to please and entertain the whole no DQ galaxy. They can say what they want. They can like me. They can hate me. But I have my opinions about these topics tonight, and I know they're going to be different than Tito's. And that's why we are here, because the no DQ galaxy wants to hear this out.
Absolutely. All right. So we have at least three topics that we'll discuss. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a topic, and Tito and Virtue will each give their own opinions on the topic. And you guys watching this live, you can also leave comments if you're watching on demand on YouTube. You can give your opinions as to who you thought had the best argument and the best viewpoint. Now, we do have our first super chat here from WWE Action Figures Matches. Virtue will always win. Well, we'll see. Tito,
in my own mind, absolutely, that's a correct statement.
Tito is a very game opponent. He is ready to go. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first topic will be AEW. AEW has a very dedicated fan base. AEW has built up a fan base, but there are critics of AEW. Now, Virtue has been very vocal about AEW. He feels that it was great, or maybe good at least, the first 3 to 4 months, but during the pandemic times, Virtue has somewhat soured on the AEW product. So Virtue, I would like you to elaborate with your thoughts on AEW during the pandemic. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Go ahead.
So first of all, before the pandemic, the bloom was not off the rose with them yet. There was mystery, there was intrigue. I knew a guy named Tony Khan owned the company, but we didn't know exactly what he was doing backstage, and that's what I liked. And we had EVPs, which I know Mr. Tito is going to criticize, that were probably booking most of those matches early on. But we got Chris Jericho as the inaugural champion. We got to see a glimpse of Adam Page. We saw a great match with Cody and Dustin. Right? MJF and Cody had a great feud. I loved those first 4 months. And if you ask me this question a little bit and you want me to elaborate on that, I will. But you said, what do I think of the pandemic era? Okay, so as soon as Jericho dropped the title to Moxley, shortly thereafter, we were in the pandemic. Nothing we can do about not being able to have fans there and the way that changes the quality of the show. I get that. But what did we learn right around that time? And I've suffered through for the last year plus. Tony Khan had to come out and said, I'm the creative booker and writer of this show. And what makes it even more irritating, we know the fans that they cater to. They're going to like that stuff. They're going to love the fact that the owner of this new wrestling promotion is out there saying he's doing what he's doing because he's catering to them. But he doesn't bring in casuals. And anytime he had an opportunity, Mr. Tito and Aaron Rift, with the Shaq match with Mike Tyson, it almost seems like he blew it. And why I want to say that, the Shaq match drew a 1.3 million people, and he had that lead off the show. You don't do that. You put that at the end and build up to it, and maybe that rating for that whole show would have been better. Orange Cassidy, why do I see people selling for a guy with his hands in his pockets that don't care? Comedy is allowed in wrestling, absolutely. But when I see Chris Jericho losing 2 out of 3 matches to this guy, come on. And then, of course, Marco Stunt. Now, that guy's disappeared lately. Good. But that's probably because they got 2 YouTube shows. But I'm just not buying it. The big guys, the giants, the ones that the AEW fan base doesn't like, they get brought in. They look like they're going to make waves like Rusev. And then they don't do anything. They're in weddings and stupid angles, or they're losing matches. I just can't buy Tony Khan being Booker of the Year by Dave Meltzer and his fans. Why don't you have people that don't watch wrestling vote on this stuff as well? And let's see if Vince McMahon doesn't get 1 million more votes than Tony Khan. So the reason why I don't like it, he just needed to stay behind the scenes, okay? Then I don't know who to criticize at this point. But because he's out there with his Forbidden Door, a horrible deal with Impact, which is Don Callis basically just getting a payday for himself, I just don't buy Tony Khan. He's on TV. I always hear WCW 2000, Vince Russo was on TV. Too much happened with that, and it was the downfall of WCW. Well, this same thing's happening with AEW because Tony Khan is doing the Vince Russo, if you want to put Vince Russo in that light.
All right. Now, we do have a super chat. And by the way, chat room, feel free to leave your comments. Do you agree or disagree with Virtue and why? And I will post some of them here on the screen. But we do have
I'm going to be respectful, too. No cutting Mr. Tito off like last time, right? We're here to listen to each other.
Fair enough. All right. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, is Mr. Tito the gimp from Pulp Fiction? Nobody has a comment on that one, so we're going to move forward here. All right, Tito. So what Virtue said, do you agree? Do you disagree? Your overall thoughts on AEW during the pandemic?
Well, first of all, our kind of our basis of debate was there was kind of like a cutoff as to when Tony Khan kind of took more charge of creative, and that was about January, February-ish of 2020. And the reason it happened is because of the dumpster fire that was left for him from the December 12th and December 19th, 2019 editions of Dynamite. And so if you're going to defend the 2019 stuff, Mr. Virtue, you have to defend the following. The Dark Order being in main event time slots. You're going to have to defend the Nightmare Collective. You're going to have to defend the entire women's division. You're going to have to defend the entire thing here. And yeah, I personally like Chris. Let's be honest. He is a big WWE name. That's why he was the first champion. But then as you see it converting into January 2020 or February, Dark Order is depushed. Nightmare Collective has gone away, and Brandy is back with Cody as a valet. And then, in my opinion, the best storyline that AEW ever had was when Jon Moxley was flirting with joining the Inner Circle. And then, of course, that led into the very pay-per-view where Jon Moxley defeated Chris Jericho for the AEW title. In my opinion, Jon Moxley is a better world champion than Chris Jericho. He's had better matches. He's had better promos. I like Chris Jericho, and I know he's got on me in the past for deterioration of skills, but as you saw 20 on with Mr. Jericho, there were some struggles throughout there and some heavy criticism, not by myself but by many others. I defended him because he's an older guy. It's tough to stay a great to stay being a great at that age. But I want to cut Tony Khan some slack here. He had the pandemic. Okay, he had no fans,
Right.
and from March 2020 through present. I mean, it's been a difficult haul. But let's examine a few things that he did. He improved the women's division. He turned Britt Baker into a heel. That was a big change. And then
Right.
he brought in Luke Harper, became Brody Lee, and made him the leader of the Dark Order. It fixed that, in my opinion. And before he passed away, Brody Lee was excelling. He was starting to morph, and you could see him getting his strides and getting his character right. And then, on top of that, you have a few free agent signings here. And this is where I'll get on Mr. Virtue. You love Mr. Delete Matt Hardy. Tony Khan gave you exactly what you wanted. He back Delete Matt Hardy. And all the weird stuff that everybody loved in TNA, got it back to you. Gave it to you on a silver platter. And yet, somehow, because Tony Khan did it, it's suddenly bad. Now, here's the real issue with Tony Khan. And it's not so much that he's a bad booker, he's a bad president. And he's a bad president because he put Cody, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega in as his EVPs. And you saw the dumpster fire that was 2019 heading towards the end of it with all the stuff that I mentioned before. And now he's trusted Kenny Omega with this Impact deal. And that's complete dumpster fire. And yeah, I agree with you what you said here, that Tony Khan's kind of put himself out there and put his face as the creative force of AEW. That's but let's deny the damage that the 4 EVP done. And if you want to say, oh, Tony Khan's pushing Orange Cassidy, who brought him in? Who suggested him as a hire? It's those 4 EVPs. The entire talent roster, Tony Khan foolishly as a president, but not as a booker, encouraged those guys to sign whomever they felt were good. And he also encouraged those guys to handle creative for much of 2019. If you look at the ratings, they just dropped from 1 million to under 800,000 in just 3 months. They lost all their attendance in 2009 in just 3 months. They went from 5 to top the arena, 1,000-seat arena. So they were losing business quick based upon the creative of the good old EVPs. And the tag division was bad, even with the Young Bucks overseeing that as well. They bring in a few more free agents, and it's been a little better under Tony Khan's role. So I think Tony Khan as a booker isn't bad. As a president, he's terrible. And I also think he doesn't have a good talent roster to execute his creative ideas. But some of the creative ideas he's tried, like making Moxley into their champion, turning Baker into a heel. I liked what he did with Brody Lee, and I thought Brody Lee was getting good. And rest in peace, brother. That's such a shame that we didn't get to see him fulfill his destiny. I can't tell you what's happened with Miro. I plead the fifth on that one. You're going to slam me on that one. What do you do with Miro? I don't think it's fun on that one. I think WWE might have been doing a lot of smoke and mirrors with that guy back in WWE as Rusev. I don't know. But I think Khan fixed a lot of things that were happening through late 2019, and AEW is better for it in 2020. The pandemic made it very tough to operate, and I think he's gotten them through it. So I like 2020 version of AEW better than what it was becoming in late 2019.
All right, Virtue, anything else you would like to say? Anything you would like to say in response to what Tito just said?
All right, absolutely. All right, Chris Jericho's 2019 in AEW. Now, you got to remember, AEW technically started before Dynamite aired in October of 2019. Chris Jericho had great matches against Kenny Omega, Adam Page, and Cody Rhodes in 2019, okay? Those were the Inner Circle feud with Cody Rhodes was well done. Great spots on Dynamite. And let's not forget this. The whole time, you can't look at a rating on the first inaugural show, 1.4 million. That number never stays. Look at SmackDown on Fox. They did like 3.5 million, didn't even come close again. Okay? What did NXT do? What did WWE do that first November? They had to make NXT part of Survivor Series, the main roster, because they wanted to stifle Dynamite's numbers. So, of course, their ratings are going to go down in November because WWE put NXT in a major pay-per-view angle in which they won. Okay, so they were up against that because smart move by WWE, right? New company, let's stifle some of their ratings, and that's exactly what they did with NXT. But Chris Jericho had a fantastic run from winning the title from Adam Page. He had that match against Kenny Omega before then. And what a debut by Moxley, by the way, Double or Nothing, and standing on the big stack of casino coins. Just great stuff. And, of course, when you get to December, right, even WWE does this. You mail in television. That's what December and the holiday season has always been in wrestling. So if you want to say that they had bad shows, more power to you. But I think it was January, somewhere on the internet, Tony Khan's now the head writer of, or at least publicly that was known. Look, if Tony Khan's an amateur at doing all of this, and that's the same criticism as you're giving all these EVPs. But at least these EVPs have worked matches, have worked with agents more than Tony Khan, who's just getting into this business and it's all new to him. So I would rather have EVPs who you think might be horrible creative booking matches than this guy that just comes in and spends his father's money because if it's a tax write-off for all of their professional sports teams. And that's my biggest problem. I don't care if the EVPs weren't booking AEW today. I just don't want to know Tony Khan's doing it and Dave Meltzer's putting him over. So I think, he exploited Brody Lee's son on television more than just a tribute show. That to me is just awful. And then I get it, right? Give them family money, support them. That's a cool move. But man, and burying Miro, I don't even need to really say that. You kind of explained it for me. I just don't see much good since Tony Khan's opened his forbidden door. And I want to give AEW a chance. I was hoping that 2020, pandemic or not, and even this year, I could have looked back and said, damn, AEW has gotten even better from when they started. They could be a threat to WWE. And I might have said that despite Tony Khan. I just can't stand that guy. And the Impact deal really just made things just bogus. I mean, Kenny Omega, I can't believe Impact did that. Who's the guy that follows Kenny Omega around, Aaron? He's carrying the Impact title. That has to be embarrassing for Impact. But you know what? They don't care because they might have got a payday, and Don Callis is getting paid to be on TV. So I don't know really what's good in AEW since February 2020. There's a few things, but I can't really tell you what I think is good. I just know Orange Cassidy beat Chris Jericho 2 out of 3 times.
Psycho Jet Black just sent in a $2 super chat, says, Young Bucks are a bunch of Shawn Michaels wannabe cosplayers. Interesting comment there.
All right. I don't hate the Young Bucks. You know what I mean? I get their role and what they do because they have a pretty good fan base. So I don't hate these talents. It's just the way Tony Khan puts these shows together. My biggest issue, the way he's used Mike Tyson, the way he used Shaq, he just doesn't know what he's doing. Like that show with Shaq. That whole show should have averaged over 1 million people the whole 2 hours. He doesn't know how to thread a show.
All right. Tito, any other thoughts, any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
Sure. The viewership in late 2019 in December was under 800,000. So it wasn't just, I understand being over 1 million to start. That I get that, but we started going under 800,000, which is the lower end of all of AEW's rate. Again, I pose this question: if you are going to defend 2018's version of AEW, you need to defend the Nightmare Collective, you need to defend the Dark Order and main event spots, and you need to defend the women's division, all of which were complete disasters, embarrassments. And when Tony Khan gets in there, he chops that stuff down, and it's made.
No, he doesn't have 30 factions.
We just mentioned,
so one might.
Thank you very much, and we encourage our great audience here to keep sending those in, and we'll gladly answer them for you. Young Bucks had a better 2020 than 2018. They were just kind of there. in 2019, and all of a sudden they seem to have a little more seriousness to them. The tag division got a little better in 2020. Again, no crowds to impress as well. You got to keep thinking that. You got to think about the card that Tony Khan was dealt. He was Booker just 2 months. Their numbers went right up in January and February as he started getting the creative ship better in place, and then bam, the damn pandemic came into place. Made it difficult for everybody to book, not just AEW, but WB as well. There's a lot of, right now, me and Virtue, we're comparing a 3-inch turd to a 7-inch turd. I don't like AEW as a whole. I think it's a complete mess. I think Tony Khan needs to stop listening to these 4 wrestlers who don't have any managerial experience whatsoever. They're just wrestlers. Let them be wrestlers. Use hired hands, use veterans, use Jim Ross. Jim Ross is right there. Freaking EVP of Talent Relations is right there on your roster. Use him. You've got Arn Anderson, who is the primary agent for John Cena, as we've all learned. Dean Malenko is back there. Diamond Dallas Page. All these great veterans. Listen to them. These EVPs built this roster, and Tony can put his foolish trust in them. That's why I said he's a much worse president than he is a booker. He's not the best booker, but he's a better booker than some of the crap that these EVPs were trying. Again, if you're going to defend 2019, you got to own the Nightmare Collective. You got to own the Dark Order. You got to own the women's division, which was complete crap. And that's why they went under 800,000. That's why they lost half of their live audience by the end of 2019. That stuff was terrible. That was the EVPs putting that stuff together, and then Tony Khan grabbed that creative ring and started fixing things for the better. In my opinion, we started seeing better things in January and February. Moxley's our new champion, and then the pandemic hit, and just goofy decisions after that, and putting more trust EVP Omega to bring in the Impact deal, and that is a complete train wreck. I agree with you 100% there. It's a shame what that Impact deal has happened. It is bad stuff, man. And so what? He's got a bunch of titles now from companies that aren't as strong as what they used to be. Good job, Kenny. Good job. It's not compelling TV. I don't think Tony has a good hand, but it's his more as a fault as a president than a booker as to why AEW has some major problems today.
You have to own the
WWE
horrible
has the same
exploding
problem.
ring.
Bad EVPs around Vince.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done there. You have to own the horrible
Kenny
exploding
Omega's
ring.
idea.
That's during the Tony Khan era.
That was Kenny Omega.
Tony Khan books it.
As an EVP.
Tony Khan booked it.
Once again, foolish move.
Yeah.
Jericho
went in
vice
the
president
Mimosa.
of a company has a lot of creative say, and he probably has that written in his contract.
Jericho went in the Mimosa.
The ring was his idea, and again, he's put.
All right, Aaron, we got other topics, man.
He's put these 4 wrestlers in charge, and it's so.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your comments on AEW.
We could go an hour on this, but we got to move on.
And I'll just say this: ¡1 show on cable this past Wednesday night. If I'm
and
TNT,
the 8-49 demo, okay.
Yeah. If the advertisers are happy, TNT's happy.
Yeah. 8 shows had more viewers Wednesday night than Dynamite.
And Roman Reigns and SmackDown hasn't drew under 2 million other than one time since he's been
less
back.
than 500,000.
All right, we'll move on. We'll get to the next topic here. Otherwise, we'll be talking an hour about AEW. All right, WWE action figures matches did send in a $2 super chat. Says, all these companies care about is money. Do you agree? I mean, yeah, it's a business. They're trying to make money. That's the objective. It's to make money. I think creativity probably comes second.
WWE cares about money. AEW, Tony Khan just cares about getting awards from Dave Meltzer. That's it.
Ooh.
That's it.
Well, I'm not gonna say you're wrong on that one. let's
because
move
he
on
already
here.
has money.
Um, good point. WWE action figures matches sent in a $2 super chat says, what do you think about a WWE or AEW invasion? Not going to happen. I mean, do either of you think there's a snowball chance in hell of that happening?
Hell no.
Yeah, so
Hell no. Hell
I
no.
think we can all agree that that is not a realistic possibility. We'll move on to the next topic. We'll talk about the women of WWE.
Here's what could happen.
Okay.
Well, here's what could happen when hockey takes Wednesday night, and maybe TNT cancels AEW, WB by AEW. So there you go. It could come true soon.
Isn't that funny how that all happened? NXT moved because they thought they were getting hockey, and then ended up going to the show Dynamite, or the TV network Dynamite's on.
All right. So, women of WWE.
I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Our next topic will be about the women of WWE moving forward with them. Who should be pushed in the women's division? Who has the potential to carry the women's division for the next several years? Tito, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you think WWE should build the women's division around, in your opinion?
Well, I think you have the lens, of course, Becky and Charlotte. I mean, you gotta keep pushing them. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just saying, obviously, Becky and Charlotte. But I would probably market Charlotte or Becky a little differently. I'm sorry, I just didn't get the man gimmick. I'm the man, and person that has you look great, you're a female talent, and you have male viewers, and you're pushing yourself. And that was just complete, cold water over all that push that she had heading into WrestleMania 35. That just didn't do it for me. I would probably market her differently. Obviously, Charlotte's great. Never deny that. But she's already a 10-time champion.
12.
And she's been
Because I
heel
think
and
she's
face
counting the
many times.
NXTs.
I don't think she works that well. Okay, sure, 12. I mean, again, it just proved my point here that she's already been there and done that in her short 6-year career with WWE. I also worry that she's had some long absences lately, and that's kind of hurt her character a little bit. I think she kind of needs to build herself back up, create herself. But I think she doesn't work very well as a baby face, but she kind of overexposes herself on promos as a heel. So I think she's got to recreate herself, and I have some backstage work here. I don't think things are right with her in the WWE, over her fiance and his release, or his asking for his release. I don't think that's all right. I find Sasha Banks to be a great star. I mean, she was in The Mandalorian and did a great job. Um, I'm shocked that she is yet to win in a WrestleMania match. That blows my mind. I think you got to pay her back. She's the best worker that they have. She can make anybody look good in the ring and has put everybody else over. And I think she needs some more success thrown her way. In my opinion, though, WWE has just pushed the same ladies for the past 5-6 years, and it's time for some new blood. I really like Bianca Belair. Sure, she'd have some work on her promo, but in the ring, she's an amazing athlete. I mean, they stole the show at WrestleMania 37 between her and Sasha Banks. And again, as I said, Sasha Banks make anybody look great, but Bianca, I mean, some of that athletic stuff that she was doing was just out of this world. And of course, Rhea Ripley. I mean, she's a new, fresh talent. You just got to start pushing and using her back. WWE's has to incorporate some new, fresh faces here instead of the old. Yeah, we could push Charlotte to the moon, but we've seen that already. You said yourself, 12 titles already. So does she want to be the Randy Orton of the promotion, where you're just adding titles and nobody remembers when you won them or lost them? I mean, that's and your character is always confusing, which one face so many times. So I would push Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley to the moon as much as you can. and that's who I would push, in my opinion. But I think you need to recreate the characters of Becky and Charlotte. You got to make them more marketable. I think you should push more sex appeal with Becky Lynch. But for Charlotte, you gotta figure out what works for her. It's just she's just done everything already in her short 6-year career. Unless you want to like push her for like 5 or 6 years, like a brain where she's extremely dominant, and then maybe that might be I don't know. But I think we've seen too much from her already. So I think we need some new blood pushed in WB for the women's division, in my opinion.
All right. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat, says, the difference between NXT women and main rosters is ridiculous. Main needs to be more like NXT's. All right, Virtue. So do you agree with Walter's comment and your take on the women and anything you would disagree with as far as what Tito had to say? Go ahead, Virtue.
Ronda's out indefinitely. She was a special attraction anyway. So she's, Tito and I were going to debate her. We got to push her off to the side. Maybe a couple years down the road, we bring her back into a conversation. Becky's out for the same reason, but she's training. Looks like she teased the whole thing with WrestleMania. Becky could come back at any time. And then, of course, Charlotte is there. Now, I bring those three up because they main evented at WrestleMania. With those three in the heat of the main event, there was also an all-women pay-per-view, which I still think is the lowest pay-per-view in WWE history buy rate. Well, watched-wise. I know it's not – you can't compare it because it's the network era. But the fact that Vince McMahon allowed these women to main event with those three, those are the ones you have to roll with. The only one left right now is Charlotte. And I know this gets heat because people want to see NXT. Like Tito suggested, Belair, Rhea Ripley is the future. I agree with that, but not this second. They became champions at WrestleMania, and it's like, who are these girls? They're champions now, all of a sudden, out of NXT, just like that. I want Charlotte Flair. She's not a good baby face. I know that. Roman Reigns wasn't a good baby face either because he couldn't be himself. And himself is like what we're seeing now. Very confident, heelish type player. Charlotte needs to be the queen, the Flair. I'm going to win all these titles, break my dad's record. The company pushes me to the moon. She needs to own that. She needs to be the villainess. She needs to be what Roman Reigns never could be up until recently, where they push her as that top heel and make the fans hate her because of it. It's not go away heat, because if you build Charlotte up and she wins for the 13th time, and I think it's technically, Tito, probably 2 less than that, but I think they're actually counting the couple of NXT title reigns in there to beef it up quicker. I'm fine with that. But Charlotte Flair, to me, what I want to see with her, to be this dominant villain, and people hate her. I don't want to hear, she botches in a match or she can't carry a promo. How many wrestlers in WWE or AEW today can carry promos? So for what the circumstances, the field is today, Charlotte looks like a star. And that you push her till, I don't know, a year, WrestleMania, have her dominate, and then if you really want to get the next generation over, have her have the title so long, people are so sick of her by the time of Rhea Ripley. Now, I know Rhea's the champion now. So what I'm suggesting is Charlotte wins it at Backlash. WrestleMania Backlash, and holds it for a very long time to piss the fans off. So when Rhea chases it, or they might switch things up and switch brands, and then Belair is over there. But between those two, let them earn it and get the torch passed to them like we used to get. And then once it's officially over, and then Charlotte can just coast on the end of her career, she drops the title to a Rhea Ripley or a Belair, and the fans really want to see it because they hate Charlotte so much. It's almost go-away heat at that point. And then you can have Charlotte leave, take a break, hiatus. You got to build somebody up that they're so hated by the fan base today because they know they're Vince McMahon's chosen one. That's why I like Roman so much. I want to see the same thing with Charlotte. So she's my 1A. Absolutely. And I'm not giving it long-term, Tito, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm talking a good solid till WrestleMania. Let her be the one to truly put Rhea Ripley over. Asuka, she's kind of in the middle. She's not that girl to get Rhea Ripley over that next level. That's why I just don't feel it right now. Sasha, right? Good for her being in the Mandalorian. WWE screws her over, though. They screw her over. They have her lose titles other than this last time. The next time she defends it, she's lost every WrestleMania match. So Sasha kind of needs re-pushed in a way that she becomes dominant as well. And maybe on the other brand, she does exactly what I said Charlotte does. And then you have people that have been there, the four horsewomen, and then they finally put the next generation over. And it just doesn't happen because two call-ups happen to get title matches for this year's WrestleMania. And who's my third one? Alexa Bliss. And I know you hate her, but ready for this? WWE literally killed Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, for the expense of Alexa Bliss, who, might I add, when she came up from NXT, nobody talked about her. She was like a manager. Everybody talked about the four horsewomen. Alexa Bliss has held quite a good amount of titles, but she's smaller. She got hurt a lot. But she just has that little charm that does appeal to casuals. I know she's stuck on Raw, and Raw does like 1.7, 1.8 million. But there's something about Alexa they invested in by basically killing and sacrificing Bray Wyatt and The Fiend to build this girl up. They might as well go with it and let her put somebody over too. And that's why I want those three pushed to the moon for the next year so they can all be used as the torch passers, because they were from NXT, 5-6 years ago? And that's just where I stand for that. I don't care if people don't like them and they want to see the new generation now. I want to see a torch passing like wrestling used to do, like Shawn Michaels did with Austin, even though he really didn't want to, like Andre did with Hogan. I miss that.
Now, Virtue, you do make a great point, in my opinion, because I feel like TV characters, they tend to have a shelf life after a while when they're on TV every single week, and there's only so long that you can really book around the four horsewomen. At some point, you have to start building towards the future. Now, Walter Cruz sent in a $3 super chat, says, sorry, Virtue, Charlotte's been overexposed already. And I agree
that's what I want you to say that.
I want
you to say that. Yes. I'm glad you said that, Walter, because if she was a champion again, you would want her to lose even more. That's my argument.
All right, then. All right, Tito, any final thoughts?
She's had 10 title reigns already in 6 years. I mean,
I'm
with you on liking her. Hold on. I'm with you on liking her as a talent. Super talented, but just the multiple title reigns, flipping back and forth between heel and face. That's her, again, we have a bad creative team, and Vince is surrounding himself with terrible EVPs around him and creative teams around him. That's where it comes into play. Charlotte's head over heels the most talented wrestler in the WWE. I won't deny that. Hell no. But she's already been there, and she's already done that. They've tried so much with her. She is overexposed. And that's why I say you got to rethink her. You have to put some serious minds behind her and push her. Put someone like Paul Heyman behind her or something, like not having her as a manager, but as an agent backstage and giving her ideas. Look what it's done for Roman Reigns. So there's just something wrong with her character right now. It's just overexposed, and we kind of know a lot about her personal life, and that's kind of mixing into WWE as well. And let me state something on Alexa Bliss here. I love her as a talent. You can read my columns from 2016, and I'm just showering that whole SmackDown roster with love because she was a star there. She blossomed as a star, and then they transferred her Raw, and she continued to blossom as a star. The issue is she gets hurt. She gets hurt repeatedly. She's a smaller wrestler, and you put her against some of the larger wrestlers, and they tend to throw her as far as they can, and she gets hurt. And this is what I think. We talked about with the Bray Wyatt debate back on debate number 1 back in October, which you can check out on Aaron Riff's NoDQ channel to see round 1. I think she's more marketable as maybe a non-wrestler. We lost the host. Oh no. But she's
right. We're still live. Keep going, man.
Wrestler entity. She, Alexa Bliss is a great personality. I agree with you there. but making her wrestle again, I worry that she'd get hurt. I think she has more selling value as a personality, as an on-screen personality, than she would as a wrestler. So I think we're more in agreement here than we think here, Mr. Virtue. But I think the issue is, I think Charlotte needs some character repair, and I'm scared to death of putting us in a ring with bigger, stronger, fast wrestlers that get hurt again. I think Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, yes, they are NXT call-ups, but they're exceptional. They're very talented. They're like immediately, throw them on the ground. They're getting it instantly. They're just athletic freaks of nature who are performing great in the ring already. So I'm okay with pushing them early versus, say, many other NXT call-ups. I think WB has just pushed all these women against each other so many times and have exhausted all the matchups. You got to push fresh blood right now. And meanwhile, you got to repackage Charlotte. I think she's in dire need of something different with her character.
All right. Well, we do have a
already.
$2 super chat from Psycho Jet Black. Psycho Jet Black says Charlotte needs a Paul Heyman to be her manager. So, Virtue, any final thoughts, and what do you think about that proposal?
Well, Paul's Paul. I'm not bitching about him being with Roman Reigns. I think it's been pretty good so far. Here's the thing with Charlotte and why I push for WrestleMania season is like just that season where I like seeing somebody put someone over. Just the history of wrestling and how they used to do it. Charlotte beat Asuka and ended the streak. I was there at that WrestleMania. Charlotte beat Rhea Ripley last year at WrestleMania. She hasn't passed any torch yet. That's why I want to see that. That's exactly why I want to see it. WrestleMania is where you do that. Look, Sasha Banks has lost every WrestleMania match. Anytime she was ever a champion, she would pretty much lose the next match. So her putting Belair over this past year, to me, it just didn't feel like it was because she wasn't pushed dominant enough. That's why I want these girls to be dominant for a year and then at a WrestleMania, then put the next generation over. That's all I'm asking for. And then Alexa's just a third little wheel. Just kind of, she takes up a lot of TV time with the spooky stuff. And that's, Tito, that's just, WWE does that stuff. We've always had Undertaker, Papa Shango, Boogeyman. I know it doesn't always hit, but that's just, they love having that on their television, and it keeps Alexa from getting hurt. And she basically stole Bray Wyatt's gimmick, and she gets to thrive off of it because she's getting TV time. That's why I want to see these three ladies dominate television for the next year. Then let's get the next generation over.
All right, fair enough. Okay, we'll move on.
But they got to be available first. But they got to be available. I'm saying they got to be available. Charlotte's been absent. Becky, of course, maternity leave been absent, and Alexa's been hurt. That's why you got to.
Well, I've been mum on Becky
pushing
because she's not here
up the ladder to. And you never know with Charlotte. That personal stuff with her fiance, you never know how much that bubble over. I know she's WWE royalty here with her dad Rick and everything, but there's some heat there that's been bubbling for him to ask for his release before. They denied it and they eventually gave it to him. So, that's why you got to keep pushing your future stars upward. There's a need.
All right.
Two down.
Ready? Were you guys ready for the final?
Oh, yeah, because
debate topic?
Who's the main event topic about? Of course I'm ready, Aaron Rift.
Of course. It is the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns. We are going to discuss what should happen next with him. What's the direction for Roman Reigns moving forward? Now, we do have a very generous $13 super chat from Walter Cruz. Let me read this real quick. He says, here's what I would do to have Naomi go to SmackDown. Have Reigns use her to get Jimmy in line and make that faction the most dominant thing ever. And I would have Naomi pushed to the moon. I like that idea a lot. I love the idea of Naomi being part of that. But I know people in the chat room are like, why am I not giving my opinions? I'm just moderating. I'm trying to just make sure everybody gets their time to talk.
I feel bad by not mentioning Naomi, and I love that idea too, Aaron Rift. I just feel WWE just does things a certain way, and she's not in their plans. I don't know.
Well, if I was talking about Roman Reigns' plans, I'd figure Naomi into those plans.
You would
Definitely.
think, yeah.
All right. So, Virtue, you're the Roman Reigns guy. You've been advocating him for years, even when he was at the peak of his unpopularity. So, tell us, what is the direction for Roman Reigns in your opinion? And wait a minute.
A lot of females like Roman Reigns. I probably wouldn't have any female Twitter followers if I was against Roman Reigns. And I'm telling you what, I was at 2 WrestleManias. I saw his access line. I mean, maybe they sell more tickets for somebody like him than other ones to make the illusion he's more popular. But this was a long time coming. I know Tito recently wrote an article and said that this is something they needed to do with Reigns a long time ago. He knows I said the handcuffs needed to come off. Even when I was supporting Reigns, when he was Vince McMahon's John Cena 2.0, I said something's being put is holding him back because Vince McMahon's hand is up his ass being the puppeteer. And what we've seen from Roman since he's come back at SummerSlam last year is exactly what I always envisioned. And it meant Roman had to be a heel. When the Shield was a very popular group, when they broke him up and it was obvious that Roman was going to be the main guy out of the 3, there was no chance. And you got to remember, when Roman got pushed, CM Punk was the guy in terms of the fans who they loved. He left. Then Daniel Bryan became that guy. There was like no chance Roman was going to get loved by the diehard fans. So this heel run is incredible. Tito gives Paul Heyman a lot of the credit. His bloodline is where I give a lot of the credit. He's got Rock on speed dial. His father, they have such a rich history. The dynamic of the Samoan family is the most captivating thing to me on wrestling. And I know it's not Austin Rock, right? It's not even John Cena in terms of ratings. We were in the network bubble, the social media bubble. Aaron and I do know Roman's YouTube videos go viral overnight, 1 million by the next morning. But that's not TV ratings. But it's so weird. It's such a different culture. But long term, Tito, I don't know what you're going to exactly say, but Roman Reigns needs to be exactly who he is right now, indefinitely. Milk this thing with Jimmy, make Jimmy resist, but ultimately acknowledge him. Like Aaron said, Naomi, perfect. Do that down the road if you want. Make Roman win every title match. Let him even start winning with less help, more dominance, kind of like you did against Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. And by the way, Jimmy is a hell of a replacement for Daniel Bryan on SmackDown because it adds more dynamic to Roman Reigns. I don't want Roman to lose anytime soon. I know it's the Universal title, not the WWE title, but have him crush CM Punk's modern record. We're never going to get the Bruno record, right? But could you imagine if they let Reigns keep that almost 2 years? If they can get The Rock, if he can take time off of Hollywood and there's no insurance thing that he needs to follow suit with, and he can do a match and put Roman over on the big stage, that's the head of the table gimmick. That's where the money's at. And I hope they can at least try that. I know we have to have full capacity. Pandemic's over. That's my number one goal for Reigns. And he should even beat The Rock then. When does he lose the title, in my opinion? Whoever he would get that big match with at Mania, if they can't get Rock, maybe Cena comes back and he's going for number 17 because that would create interest, but Roman beats him. That No Mercy stuff doesn't count. That wasn't WrestleMania. And Roman wasn't in a comfortable place. He was having to remember lines that Vince McMahon told him. Clearly not comfortable to do that. Cena didn't have to remember lines. He could go out there and spit whatever he wanted on bullet points. Now Reigns is going out there having fun. Dude, he did that little thing on SmackDown. It looked like they were going to start doing the Rikishi and Too Cool dance because, even the serious stuff they're having fun with. Roman was cracking up a little bit when Heyman was going ding, ding, ding. This is the entertaining Reigns I want to see indefinitely. Never lose a match, keep the title, and keep building the empire. Now, what will happen after that, like I said, build the big match at WrestleMania, get either Rock, Cena, Lesnar, have it marquee. Reigns still defeats him. Then the program Reigns is in after that, whoever it might be at the time. I don't know, Big E, Keith Lee. If they can ever build a next potential big star, that's when you put the babyface over Reigns. Maybe it's SummerSlam after that. That's what I think. I don't want to see Reigns babyface anytime soon. But if they did turn him babyface, look what happened with Rock. Fans hated it. Blue Chip of Rocky Maivia didn't work. Nation of Domination, heel Rock. He became one of the biggest stars of the generation. Now, I'm not saying Reigns is going to do that, but you never know. By being a heel and earning the fans' respect, when you do get that babyface opportunity again, it might be a completely different ballgame than it was the first time around. Tito, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, before we get to Tito real quick, let me read off a couple of these super chats. First of all, Joel Woods sent in a $4 super chat. No comment, but thank you for that, Joel. Much appreciated. And there was a super chat here from Josh Mansfield. He's in the chat room. He says, Virtue is the no DQ head of the table. Hashtag slay the troll. And Joel Wood did send in another $5 super chat with a comment this time. Thank you very much, Joel. He says, draft Drew McIntyre to SmackDown. A real feud with those two is money, in my opinion, although I don't know your opinions on Drew. Real quick, Virtue, Drew McIntyre going to SmackDown in October. Good or bad?
I mean, Drew he had that unfortunate run during the pandemic with no fans, and his whole gimmick when he eliminated Lesnar from the Rumble was to get the fans behind him, the 1, 2, 3 Claymore. That really sucked. I mean, Orton stole his thunder during the pandemic. There's nothing. That's just how it happened. You can't really do anything about it. So I don't know, something fresh maybe, but he wrestled Roman before. So right. I don't know. I'm mixed about Drew. Not his fault, just bad timing.
Bingo. Yeah. Bingo.
We do have over 100 people watching live right now, so thank you guys for tuning in.
That's a good draw for this on a Saturday night.
WWE Action Figures Matches says, I wish they would change Roman. I do not like the current gimmick. He says he liked Roman Reigns as a face, and earlier, Mo Cameron was like, I don't like Roman Reigns heel or face. He doesn't like either version of Roman Reigns as a character, but we all know Mo Cameron's feelings. He's been very vocal. Psycho Jet Black said, is there anyone in NXT that Roman Reigns can put over? And I've seen a lot of comments about Karrion Kross. So, Tito, with that being said, I'll throw it over to you. What do you think WWE should do with Roman Reigns, and any different opinions from what Virtue said and NXT guys that could possibly put Roman over? Should he be a face again? What do you think?
I don't matter if he's baby or a heel. It's not going to matter, and I'll explain in a moment. But let me mention one thing here. Roman Reigns is the best thing in pro wrestling right now. It took 10 years of work. It took 7 years of hard pushing. We finally got there. It took turning him heel and then giving him Paul Heyman, kind of agent his stuff, and to give a little confidence in him, changes, get that bulletproof vest off of him. They got the new music, and so he's doing a great job. But here's the issue here: is what else is there left for him to do right now? He's beaten that entire roster. Just mentioned, let's bring Drew McIntyre to SmackDown. And already disposed of him. What about Braun Strowman? Roman did that. He's beaten Brock Lesnar. He has beaten Triple H. He's defeated John Cena already. Let's bring CM Punk back. Reigns beat him back in January 2014 when Punk was at his peak and just about to leave WWE for good. So, Roman's the best thing right now, but we have to recognize the damage done by pushing him so damn hard for the past 7 years. He obliterated the entire roster, beat everybody, was depushed so he would look stronger. And if you look at the many exits that WWE's had over the past 5 years, they've gone on to other places or just left wrestling altogether because all the eggs were being put in the Roman Reigns basket for him to become Cena 2.0. And at the time, he wasn't ready for it. He just didn't have that main experience. He was a tag wrestler, then they rushed him into the main event. That's really not how that should work. You should have a little bit of a singles mid-card work climb first and then get promoted to the main event scene. He was rushed to the top, and that's why he struggled for many years. But I think, he's like what, 10, 11 years of experience. I think the time off has helped him as well, following leukemia and then of course the COVID scare. I think it's put some real perspective. He's allowed himself to think about the wrestling. He maybe rewatched some stuff. And of course, playing with Paul Heyman has been complete genius and turning him heel. I think I don't think he can act like a baby face compared to how he naturally feels as a heel. I mean, watch that WrestleMania 37 entrance. It's amazing. He just has that look of disdain for all the fans. Remember everybody worried about WrestleMania 37 how maybe fans might cheer him? They didn't. They booed the hell out of him because he looked at him like, I don't want to be anywhere around you guys. And so that incredible thing is the where Reigns has gotten here. But the problem is he's got nobody to wrestle. You could turn him heel, you could turn him face, and who does he have to wrestle? He's beaten everybody already. He's dominated the entire roster as a babyface, and now starting to do a little bit as a heel as well. So here's my opinion what they should do with Roman Reigns. And I want to mix Bruno Sammartino with Brock Lesnar booking. Okay? Never let him wrestle on SmackDown again. Save him for only pay-per-views. Just let him walk out, cut promos. He'll still be a presence there. He'll still draw. He just does 20-minute promo. Maybe he might wrestle on occasion when the timing's right, but save him to make him feel special as a champion. And then the Bruno part said maybe he has champion for 2 years. You know what? 5 or 6 years. Why the hell not? And while you have the 5 or 6 years of him dominating as a champion, you got to rebuild that developmental system. You've got to rebuild all the talents that he's destroyed already. You've got to remake that roster. And this is more of a bigger topic here in terms of management that WWE has, the infrastructure, the developmental system. It's all in shambles right now. And you can see by the personnel moves that Nick is making, that Vince McMahon is making, all the rotating chairs here on the Titanic that's sinking in terms of total viewership and fans. You can see they're trying to change things up, and I think they kind of recognize there's a big problem here as to what we've had for the last decade. But a good part of the problems was pushing Roman Reigns so hard and having him beat every inexperienced wrestler that damaged the entire roster. And now here we're at a point where he's great now, but he's got nothing left to wrestle. Nothing at all. I mean, we watched him wrestle Daniel Bryan, but we've seen that before. It was a great match. I won't deny that. But we've seen that happen before. We've seen him wrestle everybody before, except The Rock. But, okay, that's a part-timer. All right, whoop-de-doo. So we'll wrestle him one time. What's he do the next week or the month after that? So that's the problem. Roman's great, but the rest of the roster that he's cut through the past 7 years is in shambles. And I think that's the bigger problem that we have here. I would definitely push Roman strong. I agree with that. But what are you doing with the rest of the roster? That's the bigger problem that we see right now in pro wrestling.
I mean, that's some fair arguments there, Tito. Like Hulk Hogan had Roddy Piper to go against. He had Randy Savage. You had Steve Austin with The Rock, Steve Austin with Vince McMahon, Triple H. Like Roman Reigns doesn't have somebody at his level to have like an all-time classic feud with. So I really get what you're saying with that. And I see people in the chat room bringing up how they should start building up NXT guys. Yeah, I mean, ideally, WWE would have been grooming guys for Roman Reigns.
Who?
Instead, they haven't really done much because they've just been focused on him. So I definitely get what you're saying with that. Although I do think that they can bring in people that Roman has faced before, like Brock Lesnar, and with the roles reversed, you can at least do that. But ideally, you want to build new stars, and hopefully they can do that with somebody like Karrion Kross. But that's a whole other topic, with NXT. Maybe we can do that for a future debate.
And I personally like Big E, but he's just still stuck in that New Day mode. I'm just not feeling it as a potential opponent to maybe wrestle Roman. I just don't see it yet. And that WrestleMania 37 match was, whew, That was bad.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more work to be done.
Heyman's
I
been
see the
recently
potential in
putting
that
Big
guy,
E
but-
over, though.
Yep. I mean, I like him. It's just there's work to be done. That's what I'm saying. And he's a victim of the system too. He's been stuck in New Day for 8 years or whatever it's been. So, and he's still acting. He's still in New Day instead of a serious wrestler. And again, it's the system. The system is failing many of these wrestlers. They got it right eventually with Roman Reigns, but it took them.
And I don't want to see Goldberg. No.
Right. Colin Andrew, he agrees with your points, Tito.
No.
He says nice points. And Mike D sent in a $5 super chat. Let me get to a few of these super chats, and then we'll get our final thoughts from Virtue. Mike D says Seth versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Don't think Roman has beaten Seth one-on-one. And I have seen other comments like that in the chat room. And again, you can do that match even though it's not necessarily fresh because they've had so many years together. I like the idea of the roles reversed, but we'll get Virtue's thoughts on that in just a second here. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat, says, agree with Virtue, but I would have the whole bloodline, including Naomi, win all the titles and not lose until 2022. Gives you time to build somebody else. And then we have the boy Fernando with a $5 super chat, says, should build for Naomi versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, with Naomi being part of the bloodline, which I very much agree with that, the boy Fernando. So I'll throw it over to Virtue now. Any final thoughts on what Tito said and with what people in the chat room have been saying?
Well, in terms of Roman facing people he's already faced, with Brock Lesnar, they were having a hell of a match at WrestleMania 31, but they did the cash in with Rollins. So that was really inconclusive. Now we know in New Orleans, WrestleMania 34, was it? Yeah. They had Brock beat him. That was just bad. Like, I think Brock was even pissed with the way Vince wanted that booked. And then I think SummerSlam, they had Roman beat Brock. So I feel that still could go one more match. And it, like you said, Aaron, the roles reverse. So I think that has one more match mileage left. John Cena and Roman didn't have anything on the line when they did it, No Mercy. So with Hollywood, it just really complicates things. But if they could bring Cena back for a Mania match to challenge Roman, hey, I'm going for number 17, that could raise some eyebrows. You could get mileage out of that one more time. And then we all know, seems really impossible, but the head of the table gimmick, the Samoan family dynasty, they got to get that match with The Rock. If The Rock only had one match left in him his whole career, if he ever does it again, this is the one, and it is. Now, what do you do after that, though? When those guys, if any of those would even happen, you have to build up somebody. Like Tito said, could you build up Big E? Heyman's really been an advocate in real life for Big E, but you have to get him out of that New Day mold. Is Keith Lee ever going to be anything? We don't know. Karrion Kross, is he ever? You need to build up that next person that you want to make a star, and when it's time, and a baby face, because I'm sure this would be a heel run for Roman if he held it that long. You got to have Roman drop it to who you want to make the next big star. And who is that? We just don't know.
Right.
But I think Roman would be fine staying this way forever. Or if he did that one more baby face run, I would be excited for that because I would want to see if he could capture the audience better than what he never did, the way Vince McMahon presented him last time. And I would think that Rock, his cousin, gave him some advice on, hey, this could work for you if we go heel. Here's advice. See if Vince will make you go heel. It worked for me. Maybe the fans will like you as a baby after that down the road to close your career. Stay tuned. It gives us something to look forward to. All I know is a lot of females like Roman Reigns. And if I could look like any dude today in wrestling, it would be Roman Reigns, right? I'm telling you that. If I could look like any wrestler, it would be Roman Reigns because the chicks dig this guy.
All right, fair enough. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, I wish Adam Cole was tall enough to face Roman Reigns. Okay, Tito, final thoughts.
He's right on that. Again, Roman's the guy. I agree with that. Just what I worry about is the system that tried to push him so hard has failed everybody else, and there's just nobody else ready to step up. And that's why I would recommend pulling the lever back a little bit on how much you're exposing Roman on SmackDown. Don't have him wrestle much. I mean, I think he's good enough just to come out, cut a promo. He's doing great at that right now, right? And that's and he could just let his family, the Usos or whatever stable he's building, kind of do dirty work. And then meanwhile, you can, the thing that WWE needs to take care of now is have a good tag team division and have a good U.S. title, Intercontinental title division. Those are like your built-in farm systems that help groom the next guys. And history shows everybody's been a tag wrestler, everybody's been an IC or U.S. champion. WWE's taken that for granted for the last 10 years. And they've also had bad creative that's just mowed down anyone that's come up. And I don't think the developmental system is recruiting or training wrestlers as well as it once did. So someone asked in the super chat, I believe, about pushing an NXT call up. Who? I mean, Karrion Kross. I mean, really? I mean, he's not ready. He's got a few years to be ready to wrestle with the big dog here. So, and there's just nobody there, and that's the aim of it all. There's nobody you could sign on the open market. I mean, even if that whole entire AEW roster was there, there's just no one that is that impressive in wrestling right now to wrestle Brock or Rock or John Cena again. That's one match. That's one big match. So what do you do for the other 11 months? That's the unfortunate thing that Roman's stock has finally risen to its apex here, but the rest of the roster's come down, and the rest of the roster is completely overexposed. The developmental system for men wrestling is as weak as I've argued many times. So, I mean, honestly, you could turn Roman Reigns a face right now. I think the fans will appreciate him now, whether it's old or female fans. I think you've got him finally sold. It took a while. It took 7 hard years of pushing. He's the star. I will not disagree. Tuning in on Friday to watch him. I mean, that's crazy for me. I'm actually watching SmackDown consistently because he's the top star. So he's drawing me in, whereas I'm just catching clips because I hate that show so much. So he's the man. But the question is, the 7 years of pushing him so hard destroyed the rest of the roster, and you put all your eggs in Roman's basket while ignoring the rest of the guys who've been disgruntled or unhappy or whatever else, and now you got an entire story about wrestling. Roman's mostly beat already, so yeah.
All right, well, you mentioned all the eggs in one basket, and one guy that's been around for a while, and he's finally getting his big opportunity is Cesaro. We have a $5 super chat from Joel Wood. Says Cesaro winning the title at SummerSlam over the Bloodline would erupt the crowd. That's the loudest reaction you can get. Now, I think that it would get a big reaction, but would it be good for business is the question. Tito, do you think Cesaro is a guy that could potentially have a run with the world title? Real quick here, and then we got to wrap this up.
Absolutely. I love the guy, but he's, again, part of that, one of the guys that have been deep pushed for many years. They put him in the tag division, and they've had him lose, and they're finally sort of pushing him now, but how long is that going to last? I mean, it's a unique matchup. I guess I contradict sort of what I said. He's a damaged good wrestler from the system I was just describing.
All right, and Virtue, I'm guessing your answer is no to that question.
Well, Cesaro's not going to win the title. Would that create an eruption for those diehard marks? Yes, but I don't know if it's just so far long gone past Cesaro ever being an appeal to the cat. They need to find somebody that can appeal to beyond wrestling fans. I mean, because look, WWE's happy with 2 million people, 2.1 million people for SmackDown on network TV. And granted, looking at that in the bubble that it's in, remember when Roman left and didn't do WrestleMania? Those couple months he was gone before he came back. I think SmackDown dipped under 2 million 6 or 7 times. Since he's been back, only one time it went under 2 million in February this year, and it was 1.99. And I know, Tito, that's not 3-4 million people, but in the context of what wrestling is today, Roman, like I said, would always stop the bleeding, and that's what he did. So, but Cesaro, it's just not going to happen. It'd be cool for Cesaro, but not going to happen.
Yeah. I would say highly unlikely in all likelihood, especially with no fans.
Someone called me a virgin.
He's damaged goods.
I'm a virgin.
All right, WWE action figure matches with a $2 super chat says, I got to go, guys. Have a great night. See ya. Well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. And Inzumasu We Trust says, shout out to Aaron's 37 bad predictions. Jimmy finally made his return. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Funny. Very funny there, Inzumasu We Trust. All right. That's it for the debate. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's do our quick plugs. Tito, we'll start with you. What do you got for us?
Well, obviously, I write columns for NoDQ.com. I write at least 2 columns per week, usually a single rant on Tuesday or Wednesdays, and I do my Ask Tito on the weekend. So go to NoDQ.com and check that out. Follow me at Tito Wrestling on Twitter. So, I'm pretty active on there, and you can see me and Virtue arguing all the time and blowing notifications because that's what we do. Otherwise, there's lots of cool merch that you could buy on NoDQ's shop here. Here's my personal T-shirt. You can get that as a coffee mug, which I have over there, and I forgot to bring for this debate. But you could certainly buy merchandise. You can buy even Virtue's merchandise, NoDQ merchandise, and many of our other contributor merchandise. So go to NoDQ.com and you can get all my stuff. At Tito Wrestling on Twitter to follow me on social media.
All right, Virtue, your plugs.
And by the way, on this Debate King shirt, there is a NoDQ logo on the back. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. That's where you're going to get unleashed, unfiltered Virtue 24/7. I don't care who you are, what you are. I might block you and then unblock you later. If I ever do block you, just email me a heartfelt apology, nodqvirtue@gmail.com. But it's fun doing these shows. The NoDQ review is live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And yes, I still do Virtue's Raged columns. And guess what? I'm going to have a new one up soon. And it's going to be why Jimmy Uso is a more than suitable replacement on SmackDown for a departing Daniel Bryan.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that one. Make sure you guys stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest wrestling news and rumors. Have a great rest of your weekend and stay tuned this week for more great content on the NoDQ YouTube channel. Subscribe, turn on notifications, tell a friend. And with that being said, we will see you guys next time. Have a great night.